of background on JourneyTEAM. We've been around for about 29 years. We're based in Salt Lake City, Utah, Draper, Utah, actually. But we've got offices literally around the country: Tennessee, California, Texas, a small operation up in the Northeast, and we've got clients and projects all over the United States and a few fingers that reach throughout the world. So we are actually closer to about 160 team members, 350 plus active customers over the past 12 months. In the past 5 years, we've completed 1,300 plus projects across the Microsoft solution set. We try to hang our hat and to grow as a result of how we treat our customers. So 90% referenceable customers here. So that's one of the targets that we're looking for and constantly looking to improve on. A little bit more about JourneyTEAM. As I move this slide forward, some of our recent awards. We're not going to do a ton of chest thumping, but these are a few things. We are a Microsoft Gold Certified Partner. That designation is going to be changing a little bit here as we move forward, so we'll keep you informed. But that bar is actually being raised, and we're going to be recognized along with that bar being raised by Microsoft for that. 2019, 2020, we were recognized as Microsoft's partner, or one of Microsoft's Partner of the Year. A few other top awards there, both relating to sort of the work environment and the culture at JourneyTEAM, but we've recognized as one of the top places in Utah to work, one of the best companies in the state. And so just a little bit of background about who we are and what's being recognized by folks other than us pounding ourselves on the back here. This next slide, we call it our state, but also because it's kind of a busy slide, but it really helps to give you a feel for the breadth of JourneyTEAM's practice areas. We cover the full range of the Microsoft Enterprise solution set that covers enterprise resource planning, or ERP, customer relationship management. Our cloud team covers all those things related to the Microsoft Workplace toolkit. Collaboration and content talks to SharePoint, information architecture, knowledge management, intranets, and all of those things that relate to how you collaborate and communicate. Our data and BI team covers the Microsoft Power Platform, so Power BI, Power Automate, Power Virtual Agent, Power Apps, and those things relating to data warehousing, business analytics, and the things that help to drive your practice forward or your business forward. One of the things we recognized over the years of helping companies through this digital transformation process is that the technology typically works as deployed if it's put out there correctly. The challenge that organizations face when moving through this digital transformation process is the actual process of change management and user adoption. So we actually have a part of our practice that covers all of those other practices that helps to meet organizations where they are and to help them through that change management and user adoption process to make sure that the solutions that you're deploying are making sense for your organizations. So with that, that's a little bit of the background on JourneyTEAM. I'm going to turn it over to your presenters today, Brandon Gordon, who is the director of our CRM practice, and Richard Roberts, who is a CRM functional consultant for JourneyTEAM. So, gentlemen, take it away.
Okay, how about now? The triple mute got me there for a second. But like Ed said, my name is Brandon Gordon. I'm the CRM practice director here at JourneyTEAM. Been at JourneyTEAM for about 3.5 years. Been doing Dynamics consulting for about 8.5. And I'll let Richard do a quick intro, and then I will take the reins back and get to the fun stuff.
Yeah, I'm Richard Roberts. As mentioned, I'm a CRM functional consultant here at JourneyTEAM. I've been with JourneyTEAM for about a year now. and just looking forward to this discussion today. So.
All right. Thanks, Rich. So kind of like what we're here to talk about, right? The focus is on Teams chats, conversations, Teams calling, also Teams meetings, meeting integration inside of Dynamics 365. So it's a lot to cover. So what's kind of cool in this presentation that we're going to be doing is that we have about 30 to 40 minutes of showing everybody kind of how the platform works and some of those use cases. So it's a lot more showing and a lot less kind of just talking about art of the possible, but it is important that we kind of talk about kind of what we see as far as trends, kind of where Microsoft is positioning themselves in the in the ecosystem out there, and kind of what I see even from my perspective across our current customers as well as prospective customers when it comes to Teams chats, conversation, intelligence, as well as dynamics. So a couple things that I wanted to mention is that, so I'm also, as the practice director, I'm responsible for a lot of the demos, pre-sales activities, so on and so forth. And a lot of what I see in the marketplace is, especially when it comes to CRM platforms, is when I do a demo, about 30 to 40 minutes of an hour demo is dedicated to this exact content that we are showing you today. And the reason for that is that these are the items that make the platform special and unique, especially compared to a lot of the other, Salesforce, HubSpot, some of those other ones. So this is generally what, when we have customers that want to see the system, see the environment, see what it looks like, they're not asking so much to see, hey, I want to see what the sales process looks like, right, from lead to order, because everybody kind of understands that. So usually what it comes down to is talking about art of the possible, and then we're really focusing on what makes the platform special, what makes it different, especially when people already have teams in their tenants and their users are using it. So just to give everybody a little bit of a background, this is why this specific topic is so exciting for me, because this is generally what people are asking for when it comes to information architecture, information management, these kinds of things. So as far as before I kind of get into this, there are some considerations that we are going to be focusing on when we talk about enhanced Teams collaboration, Teams calling, as well as Teams meetings. Is that I want to make sure that everybody understands what the licensing requirements are for any and each of these feature sets. So first off, when it comes to the enhanced Teams collaboration feature sets that are inside of Dynamics 365, if your users are already licensed with Teams and they have a Dynamics 365 license, there are no additional licensing requirements. There's no add-ons, nothing like that. If you got Teams and you got Dynamics, guess what? Your users can use the enhanced Teams collaboration feature sets. So, I hate running into gotchas and scenarios like that. And so we're going to be kind of talking about a lot of, the licensing considerations so that you guys can make appropriate plans as far as what we, as far as how to take advantage of this technology. Because one of the other things that's really exciting for us when it comes to Teams collaboration and Dynamics and Outlook and all this stuff is that a lot of these features you're already paying for because you already have the licenses for them. Your users are already licensed. What we need to do is kind of come up with a plan as far as what's the collaboration plan? How are we going to share information? What is going to be your organization's use cases for how are we going to use technology to effectively communicate and share information and kind of depending on what your business does or organization, right, close more deals, or attract new customers, members, so on and so forth. So those are some of the big considerations here. So I'm going to be going to the next slide, and so we have some embedded videos here, and so this part of the demo is about 11 minutes long. So let me know anybody has any issues with audio when I press play, so ping us in the chat. And without further ado, I'm going to play our demo as far as how the Teams collaboration works inside of Dynamics 365. So first of all, I have pulled up, in our demo environment here, I have our JourneyTEAM account pulled up. So I can come into this JourneyTEAM account and I can enable my Teams chats preview. You can see from this little widget, I can see all of my chats that are associated to this specific account in my environment. And what's interesting is you can see that I have all of my normal chats down here, and I can open these up. I can participate in them. I can come in here and I can say test. That's wonderful. I can come over to this chat over here. I can say hello, and I can have several of these open and I can minimize them. So you can see that I have teams within Dynamics. So I can't really, so everything's interconnected, and that's Microsoft's vision and future as far as how O365, Teams, and Dynamics all are interconnected and how they all work together. So that's how some of the Teams chats features work. And you can see up here, I have what is called a linked chat. And these are chats that you can have with a number of individuals, and you could be discussing this specific account and you're linking that chat to this record. So if I have access to this record inside of Dynamics, I have access to see these chats based on how I am configured. So there's a little bit of security that we can talk to that I'll revisit. But if I have access to this record, I can see and participate in any of these chats. So if you are like us, where you might have many conversations, different types of users, and sometimes people get asked to kind of be added to specific Teams chats that you might have, instead they could go to the record inside of Dynamics. They could see all the chats, identify which ones that they need or would like to be a part of, and they could join those conversations without needing to go hunt somebody down and ask them if there's a conversation happening outside of their purview that they can positively contribute to. So that's really cool because it simplifies it from a security standpoint, and it kind of reduces some of those moments where people need or would need to see information and or participate in conversations that they don't know about. So a simple example of what that actually means is, let's say, for example, maybe I'm a project lead and I have a conversation with the account manager for that specific engagement. This is JourneyTEAM specific, but we see a lot of related scenarios. And I might have a conversation with the project manager as well. And sometimes, like, depending on how those conversations are going, it'd be nice if we're all in the same conversation, because really it's the triangle of touch between the project lead, the project manager, and the account manager that helps ensure the project is successful. So we can merely add everybody, like create a link chat with all three of us in there, and then we can link it here. So that would kind of solve that use case. Another example is that you can, in some of the feature sets, you can also be recommended channels to be linked to this record. So that's also something kind of cool. I'm not getting any recommendations right now, but there is a little AI box that'll pop up here sometimes. So that's kind of how the linked chats work. So a thing that you see on my screen right now is that here we have a JourneyTEAM JT questions, and I have this little locked icon. This chat is locked. So based on my security settings, so I have it enabled to where my demo users, they can't join chats that they were not initially a part of. So an example of this would be maybe the account manager and finance are having a conversation, and maybe it's confidential, maybe it's just not something that I need to have purview to. They can have that chat and I can see that they have that chat, but I can't click in there. I can't see details as far as what they're discussing. So as an example is that there is a little bit of consideration as far as how confidential conversations can work, where you still might want to track that conversation inside of Dynamics, but you also, from a convenience standpoint and from like a history and tracking standpoint, but you don't need everybody to see what you're talking about. So that can be configured so you can have people, it's kind of it's not all or nothing. It's based on security rules. So you can enable certain security rules to be able to join specific chats. And if you have the user enabled, you'll see this lock icon. And I got another demo user that I'll just show you what it looks like. So I can't join this chat, but from this other user's perspective, on this same account, I see these 3 locked chats, right? Where this orange guy is my demo account. So kind of cool, where I can still make linked chats, I can still participate in chats, but I can't join these 3 because of my security settings. So you can kind of see it from both directions there. Next up is channels. So outside of connecting Teams chats and just being able to kind of interact within Teams, within Dynamics, is that you also have this idea of you can connect channels to records in Dynamics. So a lot of times how a JourneyTEAM works is for a specific project and or customer, we will create a team within our Teams environment for that collaboration aspect between that customer and ourselves. So, and that's how we like to do project implementations. So what we can do is that we can connect certain accounts and or in our case, we do project records as well, because you can have many projects for the same account. And you can connect a Teams channel to this record as well. And so what this looks like, so if I come in here, and in this case, I already connected this Teams channel. So I can open up this record. I'm going to say use the web app instead. So I can have everything kind of conveniently in the browser, but it will open up that specific team and that channel for me inside of Teams. And I can see here that I have this link to JourneyTEAM, and this is a link to the record in Dynamics. And I'll get this little pop-up. It'll say this record is successfully connected to Dynamics. And as you can see, I have access to this record from Teams. So within Dynamics, I can work within Teams, and within Teams, I can work inside of Dynamics. And it has the same look and feel. This looks exactly like if I was in my Dynamics window. I can interact with this data. I can add new data. I can come in here, new note, and everything's the same. I have all the same functionalities. What it really does is strips out the left navigation as well as the top navigation. And I can still, even though I open up to this record, I can still drill into related records. So I can still have all of my navigation, everything that I would need to do, I can still have and kind of be able to execute whatever my day-to-day duties are. And you can see here that I drilled into this account, and you can kind of continue to drill into other accounts as well. Let's see if I have any other records. So I went from JourneyTEAM to my parent account, which is Alpine Ski Company, and then I was able to drill into a case. So kind of cool. The other thing worth noting is that you can also have within Teams, outside of connecting channels to specific teams and Teams channels, is that you can have views of records inside of here as well. So in the other in the channel interface, we are showing just a specific record, and then I could kind of do whatever my data is. In this case, you could have something where you could see a list of records, and you could merely expose, hey, for this account, I want to see my open leads. In this case, I'm showing everything, but you could have very specific views that you want to expose here, right? This is all my open leads for this territory. So if you're doing teams by different territories or regions, you could, and if they work within a Teams environment, in a Teams channel, you could also kind of give them the opportunity where they could easily from Teams see which open leads they have for their specific region, and or if you're a manager, and you can kind of manage the team in that direction as well. Not to mention that the team can interact within CRM in that fashion as well. So where this comes up and why we're kind of showcasing this is that sometimes customers want to work. Sometimes we get requests for certain users or types of users, depending on their job duties. They want to work completely within Teams because that's where most of their is happening. And being able to link Teams chats, be able to link records into Teams, and as well as kind of lists of records, is that it's able to give people a lot of what they need, and so that we can actually fulfill that. So that can be really cool. So overall, in recap, Microsoft's vision and future for how all these applications work, O365, Teams, Dynamics, they're all interconnected. You can work within all of these from each other. And we didn't even talk about the Outlook integration in this call. This is focused on, this BTS session is focused on Teams, but they all work within each other, and you can essentially do everything that you need from within Dynamics, from within Outlook, as well as within Teams. Awesome. And before I move forward, I know Nick had a couple great questions. He was asking about the licensing considerations for this, and so I put a link in the chat. It calls out all of the specific Dynamics 365 sales licenses, and then also at the very end it says any customer engagement application license. So very, very interesting there, because it does work. I'm demoing this from the sales perspective, but the enhanced Teams collaboration features work in customer service as well as marketing as well. So don't feel like this is only accessible through the sales hub or from a sales license. So very, very good question there. And then the other thing I thought I did show it in here, but I kind of showed the Teams perspective, but I have a screenshot in the chat where you can kind of see what it looks like with one of these connected chats from the perspective if you were looking at that chat from Microsoft Teams. So if you want to see what that looks like, there's a screenshot in the chat. It's not anything special. It's the same kind of look and feel as you would be expected to. It looks like a normal chat. There's no indicators as far as if this is connected to CRM, kind of like when you actually link a channel or a record to a channel inside of Dynamics. So a couple good call outs there. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that everything that I showed in this video, it was when you're kind of doing everything from beginning to end, right? I'm going and I'm creating a link chat. I'm adding the individuals that I want to that link chat, and then obviously it's linked to that record. You can also have any of your other chats, and you can link them to a record. So if you had already started a chat, let's say me, Rich, and Ed, we had a chat, and then we wanted to go back and link that to a record because it's like, we talked about a lot of good stuff that we want to be associated, so that maybe Tori can go and see it, or just throw out some other names like Matthew or Jake, Skylar, so on and so forth. You have that opportunity. You don't have to create the link chat to have it associated to that record. You can, after the fact, go have your conversation and then link it to the record inside of CRM. So that's pretty cool, and that can be pretty powerful. Next up, I'm going to be getting into some of the Teams calling feature sets. So this feature does have some additional licensing considerations. So first of all, you'll need one of the Microsoft Teams calling plans. Kind of one of the takeaways is just making sure that you have a PTSN associated to either you're using an external one or you're using the one that comes with the Microsoft provides. And so that's really the two big differences between these two licenses. I don't want to get too much into like some of these licensing quirks, but at the end of the day, you'll need a calling plan and telephony integrated into your Teams environment. And if you already have that to where you can make external calls, then you are good to go. But this is really the limiting factor. It's either you have an external one for $8, the $8 a month plan, or you have the $15 a month plan. And then since this I didn't want to get too far into the weeds, but really I just wanted to just kind of highlight the quick differences between the standard and versus the Teams phone with calling plan. And one of the big calls that I wanted to do is just kind of call out that it really comes down to who is going to be your PSTN. I think I said PTSN before, so excuse me. So whether it's external or internal, or external to Microsoft or Microsoft's providing is kind of one of the big ones. So there's some additional information there, but if you already have that, That's the only difference as far as what you need to access the Teams calling within Dynamics. Um, some of the things that I wanted to talk about a little bit with the Teams calling is that it is a great solution when you don't need to go to a very complicated or expensive full contact center solution, right? We have partners, like um, there's In Contact, Five9, some of these large contact center specific ones. If you need something a little bit more simple, but still, kind of gives you a call pop up and gives you the ability to set up, even in the O365 side of things, like some auto attendance, and then you're doing some basic call routing. This works great. Because like I said, is that especially if you're already paying for those the Teams calling licenses, you get access to this, right? You don't need to go pay for another provider, another additional license or implementation. And so what I'm focusing on is how does this work out of the box, and what are some of the use cases? Um, so in some of the things that we've kind of seen at JourneyTEAM is sometimes it's specifically sales departments will kind of be using this feature, or kind of smaller customer service departments. And we've even had customers that had 100 plus customer service representatives that they were interested in the simplicity of something like this. So going to be showcasing kind of the art of the possible of this feature set. It is simple, it's straightforward, and then there's also the conversation intelligence aspect of it that I will be showcasing at the end of the demo as well. And that's kind of where it really gets powerful. And I do have some slides after, let's see, after the demo that I'll kind of go into what does conversation intelligence kind of look like from a licensing or consumption basis. And then we will go from there. And the other thing that I wanted to call out as well that I'll kind of talk a little bit more after this video is that in our demo environment, I don't have a lot of data in the sense to where I can't leverage a lot of the analytics behind some of the conversation intelligence, like keyword trends, call performance, things like that, since I just have one user. But one important aspect is that the whole intent of some of the conversation intelligence feature sets is that as a manager, you would be able to actually manage your team based on call performance, right? Who trends the best as far as positive versus negative sentiment analysis? Who is, like what keywords are being said by customers and or your reps? And there are built-in reports to handle some of that information, and I can provide a link to that in the chat. But without further ado, again, like I said, like with our last videos, when we play this, if there's just in case the audio is low again, turn up your audio a little bit. And this is about 9 minutes, and so I think that from a timing perspective, we're doing pretty well, and that we should have plenty of time for Rich kind of showing some of the Teams meetings integrations, as well as getting any questions answered that we need. So we're going to be talking a little bit more about Teams calling. So it's an additional aspect of the Teams collaboration features that are baked into Dynamics. And what does this mean? What are the implications of using this feature? And what do you need to have from a configuration and licensing perspective? So the good news is if you already have telephony integrated with your Teams, you're paying that additional cost for that license. You do not need to pay for any additional license to have Teams calling inside of Dynamics. There's not an additional Dynamics license. You're already paying for it. So for those that have telephony integrated with their Teams, this is just a feature that you can start using. So how it works is that you can do inbound and outbound calls. And it's not a full contact center implementation, right? Like this doesn't handle a lot of super complex, scenarios. But for having a feature that does some inbound and outbound calls, as well as providing a screen pop-up, it does pretty well. And like I said, one of the better parts of it is that you can start using it immediately. Some of the other kind of nice features with this are that it automatically does and creates the phone call records. And then there are also additional add-ons to the Teams calling feature when it comes to call recording as well as conversation intelligence and some AI. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my partner, Richard Roberts. He's going to give us a call. I've already got his contact record loaded up, but we're going to see his incoming call come in, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the call pop-up. So here on the right, you can see that we see his name. So I can click on this, and it would actually open up the record, but I already got it open. If it found duplicates of it, it would also do it again. And it'll show me all the different duplicates for his contact record. So for example, if there was more than one Rich Robert, it thought, or more than one record that had his phone number associated to it, or even account, so on and so forth. So this time I'm actually going to pick up, and I'm going to give it a second to load. And so some of the things that you'll see here immediately is that I got a phone call activity record that's been created in my timeline. So nothing I need to do there. Phone call activity is already created. I can see I have a recording option, and I'm going to come back to that here in a second. I can click on this details tab. I can change what the record is connected to. So if I don't want this connected to Rich, and maybe this is specific for a lead or opportunity I'm working on that's associated to Rich, I can make that adjustment. And then also I can click on this button and immediately open up the phone call activity record. I can also take additional notes here. And once I enable recording, I can also see my transcript. So I'm going to do that, and because this is kind of some of the cool stuff with this. But as you can see, you don't need to record the call to get functionality, to get a call pop up, to get a phone call activity record, to do a lot of these basics. So that's all really great. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to enable call recording, and then Rich is going to talk to us, and he's going to give us a little spiel, and then we're going to use some of the keywords and terms and capabilities of the AI so that we can start, so I can kind of showcase some of these and what they look like in the call summary report. So let me give Rich the signal, and we are good to go. All right, so it'll be quiet for a second, but he's giving us the rundown here. And what we're going to be looking for is positive and negative sentiment analysis after this phone call is done. All right. Since I'm using my mic in two places, I'm not going to respond back, but you would, if I were talking back, you would be able to see my conversation to go along and spread in between the conversation points that Rich is doing. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hang up this call, and I'm going to open up the call summary report so that I can showcase kind of what this looks like. So there's a couple different ways we can get to it. It's going to automatically be available from the phone call activity record from within the timeline, and I can also just directly go and open up the full summary here. So fantastic. It's already kind of loaded the positive and negative sentiment analysis, which is pretty cool. Sometimes, depending on how long the phone call is, it might take longer for it to go and perform that analysis. But what I want to do is kind of go through a couple of these things that we're, as far as information that we're seeing. The call is recorded, so I can kind of jump around and I can go and play the different areas of the phone call. Again, like I said, if I was talking, I'd be able to see my, my conversation monologues up here on the top line. And so I can see that we got some neutral, we got some negative, and then we also got some positive. So that's what how it's gonna break it down. And also it'll kind of give you the longest monologue, which is kind of an interesting of note. And then I can also come in here from if I was a manager or coach, I can come in here and I could add comments. could ask the customer this question next time, right? And we could save that, and then we could kind of see that note if we were to kind of do some quality assurance there. So pretty cool. Next up, you can also search the transcript for certain keywords. So if I wanted to look for CRM, it will go through the transcript and it's going to highlight all the instances where CRM is mentioned. And some of these other tabs, I can come over here, I can click notes. Like I said, I already had a test note over here. And over in this area, you would see AI suggestions if we were to kind of, if we were talking about scheduling a follow-up meeting or task, we could get those suggestions and those would show up here and we could add those directly to the timeline. So from an action item standpoint, we didn't have any suggestions. And then over here from a mention standpoint, it'll track keywords and keywords mentioned. So if I come over here and say budget, it'll take me to the conversation points where we have budget highlighted. If I click on time frame, so on and so forth, I can go through these keywords and I can see when they're mentioned. So that's pretty cool. It can be pretty powerful, especially if it was a long conversation or a conversation you want to go back and make sure that you captured all the specific action items and making sure that you didn't miss any. So that's how the outbound calling works. The outbound call works just like the inbound, that's how the inbound works. The outbound is the only difference is you don't get the call pop up. And so what that looks like real quick, I'm just going to come over here and I won't have this phone call on for a while, but I can just simply click on the phone call icon and it will call Rich. And then I can see it's connected and I can do all the same types of activities that I was able to do when it was an inbound call, such as recording details, transcripts, that kind of stuff. So, but like I said, you don't need to use the call recording feature. Conversation intelligence is available on Sales Enterprise and Sales Premium licenses by allocated to the tenant with a certain number of hours per license. So that's kind of how some of those consumption models work. But that should cover all the basics as far as how this team calling feature works. And what's really nice is that, especially if you're in organizations that track activities against accounts, leads, opportunities, that kind of stuff, this helps and makes the account managers' lives just a little bit easier. Excellent. So now I'm going to kind of go into kind of speaking of conversational intelligence. So how it currently works, and I know Microsoft, their licensing is always changing a little bit, and I know conversation intelligence is going to be rolled into and included in Viva Sales, which the Sales Enterprise and Sales Premium licenses have access to. But as it stands from the licensing guide perspective, Sales Enterprise, for each Sales Enterprise license, you get 3 hours per user per month. And then for each Sales Premium license, you get an additional 10 hours per user per month. So the conversation intelligence, meaning these 3 hours kind of relates to how many minutes you're recording for that specific user when it comes to the Teams calling feature set. So this is allocated at the tenant level. So this isn't just, hey, this user gets 3, this user gets 10. This really looks at it as this is a bucket of 13 hours that can be distributed across those users, however you would see fit, if we just had one Sales Enterprise and one Sales Premium. So that part is is a little bit unique as far as how this works. And then customers also can purchase additional conversation intelligence hours in buckets of 1,000 hours that are allocated per tenant. So if this is something where, in some of our engagements, not all the customers need to record every conversation, maybe only some of the important ones, or maybe it's just only sales is really recording them and kind of some of the other reps aren't. But, this is kind of how it is allocated. So obviously having some sort of plan is, when and why do you record certain conversations and kind of how are we going to report on that? So those are all good things to know. And kind of like I said, it looks like Microsoft might be making some adjustments as far as how conversation intelligence is being allocated and licensed. The one thing that I already mentioned is that it is being rolled into Viva Sales. And so I got some, I'll do a follow-up and post in the chat if I find any additional information, because Viva Sales, it kind of states that There is unlimited conversation intelligence included within it, and that Sales Enterprise and Sales Premium get access to view the sales. So I'm curious if this is being modified a little bit, but as it stands, this is what is currently stated in the Dynamics 365 licensing guide. So having said that, that kind of wraps up the enhanced Teams collaboration features and the Teams calling feature sets. And now I will pass the time over to Rich.
Thank you, Brandon. Yeah, so I get to go over kind of a newer feature as part of this. And what it is using Teams meetings inside of Dynamics 365. So with that, like we talked about the licensing considerations, as you can see, you probably already have the licensing that you need for this feature as well. But as it's listed there, you'll need one of the licenses listed, as well as a Microsoft Teams license. And as long as you have those two things, then you should be able to have access to this feature. So let me move forward. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick demo for you to show you how you can do a Teams meeting inside of Dynamics. So I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, hopefully that's coming through for you guys. So what I can do here is from inside of the Sales Hub, I can go in and create a new appointment. And as you do this, you'll see there's this little Teams meeting button. As long as I toggle that to yes, it will automatically create a Teams meeting for this appointment. So if I come over here and do demo appointment, and this is where I can add someone to be a part of that meeting, and it will automatically send out a Teams invite to this contact. And then if I go ahead and save this, looks like I do not allow emails for that. So I'm going to just clear myself out there and we'll hit save again. So as you can see, there's two different spots on the screen where I can choose to join that Teams meeting from inside of Dynamics. So I can either join that here or up here in the top in the ribbon. Either one will work. And what that'll do is inside of Dynamics, it will open up a Teams call. And let me show you one other way that we can also do that. And this way, in my opinion, is preferred because you can actually create an appointment attached to an opportunity. So if I come over here to an opportunity, we'll just open this one up. And from inside of here, let's say I wanted to set up an appointment. What I can do is just in the timeline, I can go over here and set up the appointment here. And what this will do is this will allow me that while I'm in the Teams meeting, I can actually update and make changes to the record inside of Teams. So again, we'll just check that as yes. And demo appointment. And again, we can add any attendees that we need to for that appointment. And then down here, we'll go and save that. And while this is saving that, I will show, oh, looks like we got an error there. Not sure what happened there. Try this again. While that's saving, I will show in just a minute what it looks like inside of Teams to edit a record. For example, in this case, we have an opportunity. Okay, perfect. So here you go, it's saved. And what I can do is from here, I can either open up this record like this, and again, I can join the Teams meeting here, or join the Teams meeting here. So let me jump back over to the presentation here. Let me jump forward to the slide. Okay, so something I want to show here is this is what it looks like inside of Teams. If you created that appointment that's tied to a given record, so in this case, it's an opportunity. In your Teams meeting, you can select the button at the top that says Dynamics 365, and that will actually open up the record inside of Teams where you can make changes and updates. That way you don't have to have two different screens open. You can have just the one screen open where you can make changes to the record there. So it's a pretty cool feature. And what I'm going to move forward to next is we want to kind of do another quick demo of how you configure these features in your own environment. So let me again share my screen. Okay, so from inside of the Sales Hub app, what we can do is if you come down here into the selector down here and you select app settings, you'll see on the left-hand side, we have Teams meetings and Teams calls. So let's do Teams calls first. From inside of here, you will want to check a couple of boxes that will enable these features. So if you look here on Teams calls, we have that enabled, which just allows our employees to be able to make calls from inside of Dynamics. And then this also right here allows them to answer incoming calls from Dynamics without navigating away from it. And then as Brandon talked about with conversational intelligence, that is this one right down here. In order to have a conversational intelligence, you'll need to have that enabled as well. And then if we jump over to the Teams meetings, similarly, there's just a toggle right here to enable that inside of this environment. So pretty easy and straightforward to get that set up. As long as you have the licensing and things that you need for that, should be pretty straightforward and easy. So with that, come back to the presentation. We've gone over kind of Teams chats and conversations and how to implement that inside of your own Dynamics environment, as well as Teams calling and conversational intelligence and Teams meetings.